How do professional athletes end up with non-contact, serious physical injuries? Well, the difference between a non-contact injury and a contact injury would be, a non-contact would be someone running and then pulling their hamstring, someone moving their body in a certain way, making a cut and then blowing out their knee, versus a contact injury would be someone barreling into you like a tackle in pro football, and then someone blowing out their shoulder or then landing on their ankle, or some contact caused the requisite movement, or the contact itself shattered the bone. So non-contact, you're by yourself. Obviously you're evading something, you're doing some movement to get away from someone, but there is no physical contact that caused the injury. So how do these things happen? Well, the reason why I'm making this video is back on the back of a couple injuries that have happened in the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is mixed martial arts competition. And a lot of mixed martial arts is contact, right? You're punching, you're kicking, you're grabbing, you're throwing, you're doing all of these different things with contact. But some of these injuries have been non-contact, where a guy kicks someone, takes a step back, and then blows out his knee. The kick didn't do it. It didn't snap his leg. He was moving, and then something ended up going on him. So with those situations, which is different than someone tackling you or hitting you or punching you or doing whatever, those situations, I believe, come from training. If your training is involved where you're doing a lot of stress on the joints, a lot of stress on the muscles in ways, because you're gonna stress your muscles when you train, you're gonna stress your joints when you train, but in ways that are going to end up with little micro tears, with little traumas to these areas that are behind the scenes. They're maybe not present, you don't feel any pain, you don't have any symptoms, but you step in on Sunday, or you step into the octagon on Saturday, or whenever the event is, and then something ends up happening. Well, there's multiple facets. Number one is the training aspect. And as a personal trainer myself, I've been guilty of training in all of these new different ways to optimize, especially athletics. And what's interesting is those methods, because they're new, let's just say there's a new training style, there's a new piece of equipment that's out, those things, although they seem like they're better, they're just new, they're just novel. And oftentimes, trainers, athletes themselves, we often think new is better. And that's the trouble, because really, at the end of the day, when you're training, it should be basic and very specifically focused. If I'm lifting weights, I'm there to try to build muscle, to build strength in the muscle. If that is my goal, doing it in a quick motion way, doing it in an interesting movement pattern because that's going to simulate a punch or a kick better, that doesn't translate into the sport. We think functional training is functional and that helps function with the person, but what is functionality really? And this gets down to the root of the problem with most of today's training. And it doesn't matter what, and what I'm talking about is strength training. Most of people's training, strength and conditioning, mostly strength training though. What's the main purpose, or what's the main idea behind being functional? If I want to be functional, say if I want to run faster, punch harder, kick faster, all those things, what are the dynamics that go into that? It is my technique, the way that I move my body with the muscles doing the work, okay? So if my muscles get stronger, I will end up being able to do that movement faster if I am continuing with that same good, solid, smooth technique. It doesn't matter what movement I use. If I get stronger, I will get faster if I don't lose my technique in the process. So think about, what is speed? What is functionality? It's just your strength applied to that skill. So let's just take a simple movement, for example, like a bicep curl. If I was able to bicep curl 100 pounds 10 times, okay, I'm able to lift 100 pounds 10 times. But then I was training and I was then able to lift 200 pounds 10 times. My strength basically doubled. But what do you think would then happen if I tried to move that 100 pounds quickly? I'd be able to move it a lot faster than I did when I could only lift 100 pounds 10 times. So the movement, if I'm going to go faster, requires more speed, or requires more strength, excuse me. So if I want to punch faster, I can improve my technique. That will help me, because if I'm all sloppy and move, I'm not going to be able to jab really, really quickly, or whatever the movement is. And that might be with running. I'm putting force through the ground and moving my body forward. I can improve my technique, which is going to be completely separate than strength training. But if I'm strength training, my focus is on building the muscles so that when I go and do the movement pattern of running, of punching, of kicking, my muscles are stronger. And just like lifting that barbell from 100 pounds to 200 pounds, I can do it faster. Your body weight is going to feel lighter if your body's muscles get stronger. And in sports, you want to train the whole body, because every movement that you do is going to use your entire body. Okay? Oh, I'm a runner. I'm only going to train my legs. Okay, well, let's duct tape your arms to your sides and see how fast you can run. You have to use your arms if you run. You have to use your core. You have to use your back. You have to use everything. All of your muscles are going to be used in any sporting event. So, strength is what's going to help you get faster. Technique and better the form of your actual technique of running or punching or kicking or whatever it might be, that is going to help you be faster. So doing all of these functional training movements is actually wasting your time, because it doesn't translate into the actual movement itself. As a matter of fact, you can almost screw someone up by doing something too similar to their movement with weights, okay? And again, we're talking about strength training, so you're using weights, you're using some form of resistance against your body. So strength is what your focus should be in the gym, and then technique should be your focus for your sport. And those things are gonna be separate. Another concept of the training aspect of things is the actual speed of movement that you're doing your exercises with. A lot of times we think, and I've fallen into this as well, is you think, I have to train fast to be fast. I have to do dynamic, explosive things in the gym with dumbbells, weights, medicine balls, whatever it might be, so that my body can replicate that when I'm just using my body weight. Well, it doesn't work like that. Your body reacts specifically to the adaptation that you put on it. Meaning, if I give it a stimulus, if I give it a medicine ball and I say, go throw the medicine ball, and then I say, go throw a punch, they're two completely different skills. Two completely. You might think, oh, I'm using very similar muscles when I do one movement than I do the other. Yes, but the firing rate, the pattern of your neuromuscular control and the way that your body moves are two completely different patterns. So if you think that throwing a heavy weight around is going to help you with your movement, you have another thing coming. It looks similar, it feels similar, it might feel good, but it's not going to help you. Again, building your strength and building your technique are the two most important factors when it comes to more speed or more, basically the ability to do your craft better. So when you're working out in the gym, you don't have to train fast. What you have to do is you have to train hard. Doesn't mean you have to throw weights around, because if I can go slowly or even just hold, I don't even need to move. You can work your muscles statically without moving at all and still get enough stimulus. And you might think, well, if I'm not moving in the gym, but then I'm moving in my sport, isn't that going to be a disadvantage? Well, no, think about it. Again, what did I talk about at the beginning? How do these injuries come about? You're creating these little micro tears when you're in the gym. If you're throwing weights around, that momentum that's happening is creating shearing force. Shearing force just means the weight, okay, let's say you barbell curl, okay, I'm here, the weight is pulling me down, I'm trying to pull it up, or I'm trying to control the motion coming down. The shear is pulling the muscle and the tendon and the ligaments apart. So we want to decrease shearing forces as much as we can. If you train fast or you train slow, you're going to have shearing force. But if you train fast, you're going to have a lot more of the force of that amplitude being shearing away. It's going to increase. So if I can go slow, I'm still going to work the muscles, but I'm going to be doing it safely. So slower training is actually going to help more than anything, because you're not going to impact the joints, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons in that negative way because of the high speed, because of that excess of the shearing force. So when you're doing all this dynamic stuff, because think about it, you're gonna have to be dynamic when you do your sport. I've never seen someone be slow on the field playing football and be successful. I've never seen someone be slow when they've been in the UFC and fighting. You have to be quick, you have to be strong, you have to be athletic, you have to do all those things. Well, you're going to be doing those things when you're practicing your sport, when you're sparring, when you're doing scrimmages, when you're doing your running, if you're a running back, doing your running back stuff, when you're doing a wide receiver catching stuff, when you're throwing the ball as a quarterback. You have to be dynamic. You're not going to throw the football like this. You have to throw it quickly, or however it is that you need to. So when you're practicing, you're focused on that. But when you're in the gym, what's your focus? If it's to build strength, you want to do it as safely as possible, because those weights hurt you. When you're in Russia, there's a rule in the gym. You don't step over a barbell. So if a barbell's lying on the floor, you don't step over it. You walk around it. Why? Because that barbell will hurt you. That's its job. The dumbbell will hurt you. The kettlebell will hurt you. If you don't do things properly, if you don't do things with correct form, its job is to hurt you. So you want to be as safe as possible, and going slow and doing things with proper technique will allow you to work the muscles in the correct way and allow for those forces to get away from the joints, to not tear your body apart, so that when you do your event, you at least have a little bit more chance to be fresh and to be strong and to be able to do it successfully. So the forces on the body increase even more when we increase speed. So that's why if you train a little bit slower, although it doesn't seem like it's good at mimicking your sport, again, that's not the reason why you're in the gym. You're in the gym to train muscles. When you practice, when you're doing your bag work, when you're doing your sprinting, when you're doing all of your drilling, that's when you work on your technique, your skill, your speed, your dynamic movement. But the strength work, the muscle work, that's in the gym. And when you're doing that fast, it's only going to cause more problems. And as we've seen, you end up with these kind of micro tears inside the muscles, inside the tendons and the ligaments. And then when you are stressed, when you're under those bright lights, when all the pressure's on you and you're going out 100%, because in practice you're never going 100%, you're close to there, but on game day it's always more. There's always more that you can give on game day. And that ends up changing the dynamic. You put a little bit more force into things, and then boom, things snap, things tear. So as a professional athlete, that should never happen, because you're the peak physical specimens in the world. Your training should be to supplement and to get you stronger, not hurt you and break you down. So you see a lot of this functional training, see a lot of this crazy speed stuff going up and down with weights. It's actually working in your detriment. You want to slow down, focus on technique, focus on really getting into the muscle and challenging it, going to failure, not failing and throwing the weights around, going slow. And when you can't pull anymore, right, that weight starts beating you and you're just basically holding on for dear life. And that's the way that you're going to really stress the muscle and improve. So there's lots of different factors, but the main thing is training. Slow your training down. When it comes to your technique work is going to be, really, really crucial in how you're going to be able to do your movement, not trying to get better with a specific sort of dynamic movement in the weight room. It's only going to cause more problems and actually end up hurting you in the long term. So, professional athletes, you shouldn't have these non-contact injuries. Contact injuries are always going to come. There's always going to be freak accidents. But when you have a non-contact injury, that tells me that your training is off, you're doing probably too much, or you're doing things in a way that is too dynamic and it's causing problems so that when you step out on your event day, you are an accident waiting to happen. Done.